As stewards of land, especially if you're into gardening, there's an inclination so frequently to just jump in and start planting. But really, the most radical thing that you can do is to not do anything at all. So, what does it mean to read your land? We want to observe the existing conditions, and that might translate to mapping the existing conditions, draft your observations so that you can begin to see patterns. In my own landscape, it's a tiny little lot, about 1/10 of an acre, urban Atlanta. When I first moved, the backyard was completely, had some grass on it and a couple of plants, but had no topsoil at all. And the first time I went to dig in, I was like literally jumping on the shovel and couldn't get through the hard clay. And so that's an example of just noticing what my soil was doing, versus in the front yard where the slope was completely covered with English ivy. Slowly we started removing it from the slope and just seeing the difference in the soil profiles from the backyard that had been developed versus the front yard that had been largely just left alone. There's so much detritus and leaves and dead animals and branches and all the things that fall and get trapped in the ivy that then build topsoil rapidly. So we're in my home garden right now. It's the middle of winter. My blueberry bush is budding. It's going to be 10 degrees again this week. So plants are a little confused. That's something I've been observing lately. But one of the things that I like to think about in winter is it's a time to kind of see what needs tending. So this is the time of year where I do, heavier pruning. I back up to some woods that are owned by someone else, and they are covered in English ivy, and they're constantly trying to encroach over the fence, or this Elaeagnus, which is another kind of aggressive species. This time of year, it's just about to start setting fruit. So usually what I do with that is I wait until it's fruiting and then harvest the fruit and then cut it back really heavily so it stops bullying my other plants. So walking around your yard and mapping your existing vegetation. Where are the trees? Where are the edges that might be overgrown? How's the water moving through your landscape? Do you notice areas of lots of erosion or of pooling water? Where's the water coming from? Is it from your downspouts? Is it from your neighbor? Other things you might observe in your landscape: the flows of water, the patterns of light. So in the winter, where is the sunniest spot? In the summer, where's the sunniest spot? Where is the shadiest spots? Do you have spaces year round that tend to be shady and moist, or full sun and drier? So once you kind of begin to map all of these things, you start to see the patterns of your landscape. So then, when you're thinking about, I want to put in a vegetable garden, well, you've got the information then of like, this is the sunniest part of the yard year round. Depending on what you read, there are 20 permaculture principles or 9 permaculture principles, but one through line in permaculture is observe and interact. Similar to what you would do through meditation, where you start to observe your breath, right? In meditation, the idea in cultivating that awareness is that you start to separate what is from how you perceive it, or what is from how you interpret it. And that's really similar when we apply contemplative observation to landscapes. We have the opportunity to see what emerges, to read the land, and to respond to the existing conditions in a way that works with them, to create a design that ultimately is rooted really deeply in the place where it exists. A really great practice is to walk outside in a spot every day and just sit and observe and start to cultivate the presence, to discern what's happening versus our quick resolve to solve it. So for instance, you might be sitting in your landscape and say, there's always pooling water right here. Or like, it's always a little soggy in this spot. The mind immediately goes to, okay, well, I need to do X, Y, or Z. I need to take that downspout and route it away, or I need to backfill this area with sand, or I need to plant something different. But before we do that, it's really important to cultivate the pause, to just understand, okay, this is soggy. This is just the condition that is. And then see how that changes over time. Maybe it's only soggy in the winter, but maybe if you're sitting in that same spot in the summer, the plants are thriving where the rest of the yard is maybe a little drier. By cultivating that pause, by allowing ourselves to start to separate out what we see or what we observe from how we want to solve that or how we interpret that observation, we're giving the land space to emerge. So we start our conversation just by understanding the goals and the challenges that you see with your landscape. And then from there, our design team comes out and we map the existing conditions and we get your feedback. We integrate your observations because you're the expert in your landscape, right? And then from there, our designs respond to both what you're hoping to do and what the initial conditions are. Permaculture doesn't look any one way. I think a lot of times it's taught that in order to be doing permaculture correctly, you need to be growing all your own food or living completely off grid or, X, Y, or Z things. And really what it comes down to is just working with the 3 pillars of a regenerative landscape, which are managing water as a resource, building your soil's fertility and its capacity to hold that water, and planting plants that boost biodiversity or feed you or feed wildlife. Permaculture can look a million different ways depending on your goals. I live on a forest edge and I love observing all the different tiny birds in my yard. And so, creating a lot of shrubby songbird habitat has been a really big goal of mine. But, some clients love pollinator gardens and they've got a full sun yard, right? Or they really want to grow tons and tons of food and they have a lot of sun to do that. So I would just invite you to observe your land, to step outside, to start kind of looking at what's going on and reading what's happening, and start to articulate some of the goals. What do you want to achieve by being a steward of your land? What do you want your land to produce? How do you want your ecosystem that you cultivate to participate in the larger ecosystem and be beneficial? It all starts with observation. If you're curious about how to get started, or you want to dive in a little bit more to the 3 pillars of a regenerative landscape and why those are important and how those look, I wrote a book recently called The Complete Guide to Home Permaculture. It's available on all the major places where you might buy a book. Within that, it's got really practical tips of things that you can go out and do today without doing a major overhaul of your landscape, and start to implement some of the principles of permaculture. It has a lot of directives of what to look for in your landscape so that you know that you're creating a responsive design. So I invite you to give that a look.
Hi, I'm Brandy Hall, founder of Shades of Green Permaculture and author of The Complete Guide to Home Permaculture. Here, we make permaculture practical, honest, and doable, sharing real stories, real lessons, and simple strategies you can apply to any landscape. It's about building systems that are resilient, generous, and deeply rooted. If you're ready to deepen your role as a steward of your land, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and remember, your garden, no matter the size, can have a positive impact.